All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I am going to be talking today about values levels. So I think that we titled this one actually, Do the Hard Work or Follow Your Bliss. Which one is right? And I know that there's maybe a lot of opinions on that, but really we believe that what is right is going to be what is right for a person at any given time in their journey. And this is one of the ways that we figure that out. By show of hands, how many of you are familiar with spiral dynamics or values levels already? I'm going to dive in. David, you are awesome. So I'm going to dive in. Again, it's my favorite thing to talk about and to teach about. And I think it's so relevant to our world and where the world is at right now, as well as to each of us in growing our own businesses and to our clients. Awesome. And Michelle, you too? Cool. Okay. So I start every presentation with a quote. Today's quote is David Bohm, who said, "A great many people think they are thinking when they are merely rearranging their prejudices," which is such an interesting thought. And I think by the end of this presentation, you will understand why I put that there. I'm going to jump right in just with a quick introduction. This is our team at Avalon, and I am here today. I'm on the left there, Laura Slynn, and Kelly has joined me today also, as well as Stacy Warner. Avalon Empowerment, I formed in partnership with Ernie Pavan in 2015, and I certified as a coach along with Kelly back in 2012. My background was in graphic design, marketing, creative direction, but I went through a personal challenge. And for me, it was health related and fertility related. And it was actually finding these tools that helped me spontaneously and miraculously heal my body and become pregnant and have a baby, which of course changed my life. And I was 36 weeks pregnant when I showed up to Ernie and said, "You got to teach me this stuff." And so that's how I met Ernie, through doing the work with him first as a client. Kelly, who is with me today, I will have say hello and introduce yourself to Kelly, if you will.
Absolutely. I'm Kelly Osmond. And yeah, like Laura said, we met in 2012 and embarking on this journey of coaching and evolved NLP. But my background is in social work. So I was in that world for 19 years. About 15 years into that journey, I decided that I wanted to learn more and took the NLP training coaching certification and just loved everything that I learned and decided that I would integrate both worlds and also just noticed all along the way some gaps in the coaching industry. And so with working with Laura and Ernie and the team, really wanting to bring a more trauma aware lens to the coaching industry in terms of how we work with others and support others in the work that we do. And it's just been an amazing journey all these years. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And I'm happy to be on this journey with you, Kelly. Ernie Pavan, who's not with us today, was a co-founder and he's partner in the business, moving into a founder and sort of retirement space right now. And his background is in like education. So he's had a lot to do with building out our curriculum at Avalon. And today we have Stacy Warner joining us. Stacy runs admissions at Avalon, and it's been such a gift to have Stacy on our team. She came in quite synchronistically and quite effortlessly, and she's absolutely amazing. She's also the first face that people will, I guess she's the first voice that people hear when they start their journey with us, and the first face that they meet as well. So Stacy, if you want to jump on and share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. So happy to be here. I joined the team a year ago and it's been amazing, full of miracles and magic and all the good stuff. I've been a coach for 12 years and going through the Evolved NLP program and getting certified really opened my eyes and was synchronous, like just brought all these different points together, which was amazing. And I definitely know I'm where I need to be. And I just love it. And I love bringing people into the program because I was just talking to somebody, or I was talking to somebody today, and they were telling me how refreshing we are. They're like, it feels like there's a solid base, but there's like warmth and there's real people. And this isn't somebody who's in the program. It's just somebody who I spoke to today. And I was like, yeah, we're all of that. And we really care about the people who are in the program and making sure that when you leave the program, you are able to create transformation. So I'm so happy to be here and can't wait to hear what you're going to teach us today, even though I think I've heard it a couple times, but I'm sure it will be new and refreshing.
Thanks, Stacey. I love you. And it's so great. We get messages all the time from people who actually don't wind up taking our program, but saying just how amazing it was talking to Stacey and how refreshing it was speaking to somebody who genuinely cares. And so we love that. And I love doing what we do. I started out in 2012 as a coach. I started out in fertility coaching because it was these tools that helped me have my miracle. I wanted to help other people, but I also knew very quickly that I wanted to train and teach the tools and bring this work to all different kinds of industries. Because let's face it, like for me, it was fertility that brought me to my knees and really forced some major changes on me. But for other people, it's not. It's relationships, it's other aspects of their health, it's their job, their career, their finances. And so we have coaches working in every niche that there is who are applying these tools. The neat thing about the training today is that I'm teaching about different like values levels, but the entire training has been built around this, specifically our flagship triple certification, which if it's all right, I'll share just a tiny bit about. I'll leave Stacey to share more with anybody who's genuinely interested and pursuing a path with us. But as I go through and teach everything, it's actually all incorporated into everything that we do and woven into everything we do and how we teach and train. I hope that you're able to glean some of that today and pull it into your coaching business if you're an existing coach, or certainly like this is like a serious like hack in terms of learning this stuff if you're launching into a coaching business from the very beginning. To start with this knowledge will set you ahead because not a lot of coaches are using this. So some questions to start with. Why do some businesses succeed while others fail? Why do some people self-sabotage or get stuck and others just seem to be fearless? Or how do humans evolve? How does consciousness evolve? And what the heck does all of that have to do with entrepreneurship? And it has to do with values levels. These are Claire Graves's values level of development. Now, he didn't call them values levels. Claire Graves called them emergent cyclical double helix model of adult biopsychosocial systems development, which is a heck of a name. Clearly, he was a scientist, psychologist, and not a branding person. So we're going to refer to it as values levels. His contemporaries, Don Beck and Chris Cowan, came out with spiral dynamics. And then for those of you familiar with Ken Wilber, got involved with Don Beck a number of years ago, and it's spiral dynamics integral from their perspective. So there's a lot of people applying this and using it. I'm going to talk about it specifically in terms of your coaching business and in terms of coaching your clients. Okay, so these are levels of human development and evolution. We will see evidence for the levels in pretty much everywhere. You can look at it in terms of organizational development, culture, or political change. I'm going to talk about the levels very much like one at a time, and I'm going to use numbers. Okay, so I'm going to talk about levels 1 through 8. Claire Graves didn't use numbers. He had that letter pairing system. And then the spiral dynamics guys used colors to talk about the levels because they didn't want them to seem like one is better than the other or supersedes the other. But it becomes very confusing because different people use different colors, and numbers are just an easy way to contextualize it. Having said that, nobody is all one. If I talk about a value level 4, there's nobody who is only value level 4, right? We have neurology interspersed through different values levels. We have thinking from different values levels, and no level should be seen as better or worse than any other level. People will operate out of the level where they get answers to life's problems. Each level incorporates and integrates the level that precedes it. So think of it as spiraling upwards. That's why they called it spiral dynamics. The levels or levels assessment is not a typology or a rigid system, and everybody has traits at all these different levels. Levels cannot be skipped or bypassed. So in the master practitioner level of our Evolved NLP training, we have a values level assessment to use with coaching clients that we've developed. So it will actually tell us like the person is in this value level. This is where they have high thinking. This is where they might have conflict. So that's what I mean by the assessment. Okay. The stages are interconnected by transformational dilemmas. So it often takes a transformational dilemma for people to move into another level. That is true in our personal lives, and it's also true in society. And we might have been living through a transformational dilemma in the last 3 years or more. Certainly, right? This one's important. Up to and including level 4, it is very difficult to see or appreciate the value of or understand any level beyond it. So up to and including level 4 doesn't really understand or perceive the behavior of the levels above it as being from those levels. They try to put it into their container, right? If you think of like a child who's learning something, they only know their world, right? So if they see that the bowl is green and you tell them that's a bowl, and then they see a cup that's also green, they'll be like, bowl, because they can only make that association. So the same is true with our values levels. And there's a couple of big barriers that will show up. Okay. Exciting stuff. A new tier of human evolution is just emerging. We're living in exciting times. There's never been a better opportunity to make a big difference. And that is with tier 2 thinking coming on board. It is still quite rare because you have to have fully integrated all of the material from tier 1. Tier 1 is levels 1 to 6. Tier 2 is levels 7 and 8. And Graves said back in the 70s that he believed that we were going to go through this like massive consciousness evolution in our time, and people were like, this dude's crazy, but it's here and it's happening. He was studying and teaching, and he was like, I get like all of these different people have their thoughts on it, and Jung is right about so many things, but then Freud has his opinions and he's also right, and then we've got Maslow with his hierarchy, and that makes sense, but they all only make sense to a point, which is why he developed these values levels, because as we evolve, what's important to us changes, our behaviors change, and our thoughts and beliefs and ideas change. Here we go. So these are the levels. This is the spiral, and these are the levels from spiral dynamics in terms of color coding. I've got a slide on each one, so I'm going to jump ahead, but I wanted to just show you for reference. This is one of the books on the topics by Don Beck and Christopher Cowan. So from an evolved NLP point of view, we're going to look at level 1 as survival. This is just the individual. This is like our earliest humans that we can trace back to. And the only thing that matters is survival instincts, right? Keep myself safe, keep myself sheltered, keep myself fed, keep the population growing, like make more humans. The second would be tribal. This is when all of the individuals at some point in history said, maybe if we banded together and we each took on a certain job, we could survive longer. And so that is when early tribes started to form. And if you think of the tribal living, everybody has a role, everybody has a job. And if you do that job and you do it well, that is your contribution. And there's a chief that everybody listens to. So one person makes the rules and everybody else listens. Level 3 is when all of the people doing their job are like, wait a minute, what if I don't want this job? What if I want a different job? What if I wanted to be the chief? And one day they wake up to the possibility that, hey, I could be the chief. Who says that guy's got to be the chief? And that is where level 3 appears. Level 3, one of the hallmarks is aggression. And it's very much like my way or the highway type thinking. That gets exhausting over time. People can't stay in that space forever. So level 4 emerges. Level 4 is like where rules started to show up and policies and process. Level 4 is any systems, right? So this is all organized religion is really value level 4. Anything where there's uniforms, so think of all first responders, is governed by value level 4. Unions are very value level 4. Anything with a handbook or something where you follow the book, whether it's like the good book in your religion or the employee handbook or code of conduct, all level 4. Politics, like our political systems, are governed by level 4 ideas. So level 4 is useful. Also, all employee, like if you're an employee and you collect a paycheck from anybody, that's like very value level 4 in terms of your role and your job. So it's really not until level 5 that entrepreneurship comes on board. And level 5 is governed by somebody going, I don't want to have to wait 25 years to get my gold watch. I don't want to have to wait to be promoted or make more money. I'm going to go out and make my own money. So when it comes to our careers, that's where level 5 becomes important. Level 5 is also the level of science. It's a level of achievement, and it can be very materialistic or capitalistic. Again, that's going to get exhausting after a period of time, and people burn out and start to wonder, isn't there more to life than this? And that's where level 6 comes online. And level 6 is all about group and cause. This is where contribution becomes more important than how much money you can make, and where social responsibility first comes online. So equity, equality are all value level 6. We say it's save the whales and it's save everything else, right? Sounds really lovely, except that Value level 6 can be actually paradoxically hierarchical because it's also where moral superiority comes on board, and people feel like their values are the right values and try to tell everybody else how to live. So this is our first tier of values levels. The second tier starts with value level 7, which is integrative. And we call it functional flow because a value level 7 has integrated all of the material and has no sort of like undone stuff from all of the levels before it. And a value level 7 can dip into any other value level at the most important time and get its answers from there. Value level 7 knows the answer might be a value level 6 answer for this situation, or a value level 4 answer for this one, 5, or even 3. Right? So it's very integrated. It is still individual. Like, what can I contribute to the world and creating the world as a whole? So that's where value level 6 comes on. And this is global flux and true like cosmic consciousness perspective, working entirely with energy and energetics, seeing the world as completely interconnected. So Graves called the move from value level 6 to value level 7 a monumental leap in meaning. The person is now abundance motivated, not deficiency motivated. The conceptual space available to us at yellow or 7 is more than the sum of those of the prior levels. Also true is that a value level 7 will get more done in a day or a week than a 4, 5, 6 will combined because of their ability to move through and think systemically. Most of the people that you're going to deal with in terms of your coaching business are probably in levels 3 through 6. That's common. That's most of the people you're going to see. And as 3 necessarily isn't going to come to like transformational coaching unless there's a big reason to. But we'll also talk about how people dip into different systems based on where they're at or based on traumas or things that are showing up for them at any given time. Because we will drop values levels under stress, and often we drop 2 levels under stress. Okay. So odd numbers are expressive and individual, and even numbers are sacrificial in group. So do you remember when I said that a 4 can't really understand the motivation of behavior of anything above it? So a 4 will see a 5 boss at work and think that they're a 3. Having said that, a 5 under stress is probably also going to drop to a 3. Right? A 5 is typically motivated by efficiency and results and success, but when they're stressed out, they can get very iron fist ruling type thing. I think that the reason why all of us are in this world, whether we can identify it as this or not, is because we do sense this major shift in consciousness. We want to participate in it. We want to grow and evolve with it. And we're here to help people evolve into this sort of new idea of a new world. And I believe that really has to do with the second tier values of beingness coming on board. Having said that, in the coaching industry, we have a massive problem with this dynamic right here. It's the 4 person, well, we call it, it's the 6 thinker in a 4 cup. So I'm going to talk about the cup in just a minute, but this is where the person has very high level 6 ideals and has a desire to change the world and contribute, but they're coming from a job. Right? They're coming from collecting a paycheck, maybe even a union, wanting to launch a business that's a value level 6 business, but without having integrated the value level 5 neurology, behavior, action taking, and all of those things. We call this the healer dilemma. And we call it that because these people don't typically get like a full-time business that sustains and is successful and is making them enough money to get by. It doesn't get off the ground, or it doesn't get past like a hobby or a part-time space. And that's not okay with us, because we want to see like real solid value level 6 moving into value level 7 people out there actually like doing the work and being able to make a real go of it. So the healer dilemma is when somebody with that like high contribution thinking is trying to build from a platform of level 4, and it can suck because that can be where things are like the sales is hard, making money is hard, and really creating a successful business is quite a challenge. So this is just another example of how this all looks and how we spiral outwards. I'll move on and put this on here just because you can see it has beige would be value level 1, has 0.1% of the population and has 0% of the power. Currently, 5% of or 50% of power and 30% of the population sitting at level 5. And that value level 5 having 50% of the power, 6, 15% of the power. But what would happen if we would change this, right? We always say that it's our desire for those, like that 6 and a 4 cup, the healers of the world, to have power and wealth redistributed among all of us, people like us. Like, how much would this world change if the top 1% of the 1% wealth was going to people who actually wanted to do good with it instead of do harm, which we can probably agree is what a lot of the top 1% of the 1% are out there doing with money and power. This is a really long quote by Claire Graves, which I am not going to read. I just want to point out it was interesting the way that he envisioned where this was going to be, because when he did this work in the 70s, like the world was not where it is now. So to be able to see it and be able to say that values can change. So we're talking about tier 2 values, where we say his values are now of a different order from those at previous levels. They arise not from selfish interest, but from the recognition, I love this, the recognition of the magnificence of existence and the desire that it shall continue to be. So the recognition that existence is absolutely magnificence and wanting to continue that, and that being a big motivator of that second tier thinking, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, now we're going to go in to this, because people hear this and they're like, okay, so I'm like totally a value level 7 or value at level 8. And this is not to say that our thinking, that we don't have thinking there, but it's not very likely that you're there, at least probably not yet, although you can have high level thinking there for sure. What happens with values levels that often a 4 will misidentify with being a 6. That's the 6 and a 4 cup thing. 7s or 5s misidentify with 5s. 6s misidentify with 8s, right? To be a true value level 8, you've made your gazillion dollars, then you've gone and done all kinds of like Greenpeace Save the World stuff. Then you've found a new functional way of doing it solo, and then you've come back and integrated it into a real global perspective. There's very few people on the planet who are actually doing that, although I believe that we're surrounded, at least in Avalon, by people who do have high value level 8 thinking, where we can talk about energetics and that being a very normal conversation. We misidentify, though, because the ego wants to be at a higher stage without having done the work to get there. So as a rule, if you're still reacting against any value level 1 or any tier 1 levels emotionally, or have judgments about them, or have conflict connected to them, you can't be in tier 2, because a hallmark of 2 is total integration and non-judgment. So there are 3 parts to the values level. So there's the cup or the container, that's the platform that we rest on. There's our values level content. So that is the thinking, like the bigger thinking that we often do. And then there's the environmental conditions, because you can probably agree in this kind of a presentation that maybe not everybody in your family, or perhaps your partner, or maybe not your partner, but people at work or in your community are not necessarily in the same space as you are. So these pieces all come into play in terms of what's going to show up in a values level. So if we look at values level 1, I'm going to go in a little bit of depth now. In values level 1, everything is about the individual and their personal survival. The only thing that's going to influence what they're doing and thinking is food, shelter, etc. When Claire Graves did this work, he talked about adult psychosocial programs. But if we did look at babies, like technically a baby is value level 1 because they need to be fed, they need to be bathed, right? Otherwise, in our society, you're not going to come across a lot of value level 1 unless we see homeless people who are really truly isolated and completely fending for themselves would be sitting in a value level 1 space. Not to say that they would have at some point in life been at like a higher value level 3, 4, 5, or 6 maybe, but due to trauma and pain and the things, problems from the past, can drop back into a value level 1 space. Right? A value level 1 uses habit and instinct to survive. A true level 1, the distinct self would have been barely awakened. And then eventually they formed into bands to perpetuate life. So we're talking about our first human societies, newborn babies, mentally ill or homeless people, people who are like elderly and on their own can regress into value level 1, and starving masses of people can be stuck in value level 1 spaces, right? Like if you imagine like the most like horrific things happening to a group of people where everybody is focused on survival, they would be dropped back into value level 1. So while it's impossible to have a value level 1 in this space, we have to know that we're all capable of dropping back or regressing into a level under the right circumstances. So value level 2 emerges because again, when we can band together, we can survive longer, right? So there's a focus on the tribe instead of the individual. Tribes form and identity comes from one's sense of who they are inside of the tribe. The motive here is acceptance by the tribe. It's vital not to be kicked out or not to be shunned. So I use I have children. My kids are 6 and 12. So a lot of the work that I do, I put into the context of Disney movies because that makes sense. So in terms of Disney, Moana is like very much showing that like the value level 2 thinking, right? Moana's father is the chief and she is given her role. She is to be chief one day. We don't go beyond the reef in terms of the water. And there's the like whole song in Moana about everybody has their job, right? You're making a basket, you're fishing, you're hunting. And then Moana is, screw this, I don't like, actually, she doesn't want to be the chief, but she decides to go out beyond the reef. And that's her transition into value level 3. Right? The challenge with value level 2 is there's no real autonomy. There's a leader and the people do what the leader says without questioning it. Animistic and magical thinking were prevalent, as well as rituals, superstition, and ceremonies. The belief in gods, mystical phenomena, voodoo are all part of value level 2. The interesting thing in tier 2 is with value level 8 is if we can go back and integrate indigenous ways and really truly understand the ways of ancestors and indigenous peoples and integrate them in a really like integral way, then we'll see this show up again at that like tier 2 level, which is interesting. Okay. So in this way, in terms of it being value level 2, it could appear to be holistic, but it's not. When it's in value level 8, it is going to be truly holistic. We might see value level 2 in remote tribes in the world. We'll also see value level 2 thinking in extremist and fundamentalist religions, in cults, and in street gangs. Okay. How does this show up for us? Because some people are like, we're teaching this stuff, but I'm not really a values level 2, but we actually see value level 2 conflict all the time on those coaching assessments, because people will come and their assessment will show a conflict in 2, and we'll start asking about family of origin. And as coaches, we see this often as well. What will your family think of your choices? I joke that for like years, when I was like a successful coach at a point in time, a decade ago, and my mother would still talk to her sisters and be like, oh, Laura's unemployed. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not unemployed. I'm self-employed. It's different. Like she couldn't wrap her head around it. So what does your family think of your choices? What if you are sharing your story? Especially if your story includes people in your family or people in your world. If you had one of those families where what happens in this family stays in this family, and you come out and you're like, but I want to talk about how I've healed. The fear and sometimes the trauma associated with value level 2 can prevent us from taking action and moving forward. Conflict in family of origin will lead to conflict showing up in value level 2. And make no mistake that even though we're not thinking of this consciously, at a deep subconscious or unconscious level, the idea of breaking apart from the clan or apart from the tribe carries with it the potential for a lot of shame and a lot of fear, especially, like I said, especially if there's some trauma there, or if there were like aggressive responses to doing differently or doing bad. So that can show up, and that's all work that we coach through, and part of why trauma conscious coaching is so important. All right, so values level 3 comes on board. This is Moana. She's, screw this, I'm going beyond the reef. The water is calling, I need to see. And this is when somebody stands out from the tribe. They awaken to the idea that they want to be the chief, and they differentiate themselves as a leader. For most of us, we went through this as teenagers. And hopefully for most of us, we got through it and kept growing as teenagers. Some people get into this space and they stay there, right? There are definitely adults who are true value level 3s out there, but most of us, at least in this kind of a space, grow through that. Value level 3 is egocentric, it's ruthless, it's impulsive, it's my way or the highway, looking out for the self, makes their own rules. Now remember, this is a true VL3, right? The idea here is life is the jungle, the strongest will survive, and we will do it with force and without guilt. Some people don't advance from this level. You will see people who are really great salespeople in value level 3, but they're the pushy salespeople. Value level 3s are great at selling timeshare because they will not let you out of that building until they can ring the damn bell to say that they sold some more timeshare. I might know because I might have 3 timeshares that I own. I've bought a few. I've bought a few before I learned how to say no. So they can do well in business, but they won't get repeat business or referrals because they will turn people off big time in the process. VL3, they suck as managers of people, right? They don't experience guilt. They will have poor reactions if they're shamed publicly. And again, you're probably not going to run into too many, like they're not the ones raising their hands because they want to better themselves through life coaching. Although I have had a couple of like true value level 3 clients. They came because they were in a transformational dilemma and needed to change, but they're not going to show up too much in your coaching. However, like everything else, it's possible for any of us to drop into level 3 at any time, especially 5s under stress. This can be connected to self-sabotage, where like you hit your stuff and you drop into a 3 and come out swinging, looking for a fight. And it happens through a process of projection or to discharge or deflect pain. And people with a lot of trauma or difficult pasts can revert into value level 3 as a form of self-protection. So we do see when we run the assessment with our students in the program, we'll see a bunch of people come out value level 3 and they're always like, oh my God, how am I a 3? And I'm telling you, they're the most like soft-spoken, loveliest people. Will show up on an assessment as a 3 and people will be like, oh my God, the assessment didn't work. And we're like, no. And we start asking questions. And sure enough, this is a person who has really never been able to depend on anybody, has a difficult childhood with trauma and perhaps like abuse or aggression, who learned that the only person they can ever depend on is themselves because every important person in their life has backed away. And that person can show up in value level 3. It can show up that way because they've regressed into it. Okay, so that can happen for sure in coaching, and we have to help the person work through that with specific tasks. All right, values level 4 shows up because a 3 gets tired. They wake up to the idea that they don't have to do it on their own and they don't want to do it on their own, right? 4 is governed by laws and rules and structure and process and systems. Self-sacrifice is an ideal for value level 4s, like that sort of very pious, religious sort of structure is important to 4. Guilt is important in that sense in value level 4. So again, most religions, law enforcement, government, education will all fall inside of a value level 4 container. So if you take somebody like Ernie, our partner in the business, he was a teacher for years and loves teaching. He's super passionate about teaching, but he was never going to be able to live in a value level 4 system. Like he couldn't have stayed with it because the system itself is confining. So he left the value level 4 system and created an education platform to do it in a very value level 5 way. And that will happen to a lot of people in value level 4 containers. 4s will sacrifice now for more later. Save your pennies for a rainy day is value level 4. They want to pay off the mortgage, put 25 years in outwork, get the gold watch, and then retire to enjoy life later. That's very level 4. 4s are also socially conservative, follow the rules. They're very disciplined. Things with a value level 4 are right and wrong, black and white. So if you're coaching somebody who's a value level 4, you want to tell them the right thing to do is this and this. The wrong way to do it is this way. And they'll respond very well because they believe that there is a right and a wrong way to do everything. 4s will have, like 4s are very like shame on others who don't believe the way that we believe or think the way that we think. The words like should, must, have to, and a sense of obligation is what motivates behavior for somebody who's a true value level 4. The majority of North America, I would say, is a value level 4 platform, and the majority of people who want to be entrepreneurs are trying to get out of their value level 4. Right. So when I say like a true level 4, this is somebody who loves being a 4. They're like, I'm a 4. I love being a 4. I want to stay a 4. That's not who we attract into our program. We attract the last bullet point, people who are like, I don't want to do the 4 thing. I want to be a 5. I want to be an entrepreneur, but they still don't have that new way of thinking. Okay. The great thing about 4 is that it is the level of systems and guidelines and boundaries and processes. These are things that aspiring 5s often want to bypass. I was one of those people. I was like, I hate that stuff. It's boring. I don't want to think about that. I just want to have my vision and be a visionary and jump into I'm already a value level 6 was what I thought. The problem here is that in their rejection of the dogma and rigidity of 4, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. And this can make for a very rocky transition into entrepreneurship because incompletion at this level will eventually block transitioning into that coveted second tier of thinking. Okay. So the structures, the processes, the rules, the guidelines, the policies and procedures all have a place in a thriving business. And paradoxically, it's all of those things that will give you the freedom to be a creative entrepreneur. It's having those systems in place that create the freedom and the mental space to actually be able to vision and think big. And level 4 is where we have the opportunity to fall in love with all of that. 4s can't and should not try to coach people who are level 5 or higher because of that dynamic of 4 not being able to see the 5 behavior for what it truly is. The other challenge with 4 is when it comes to taking risks and making investments and stuff, right? Because the 4 thinking has always said, save your pennies for a rainy day. Don't ever go into debt at all costs, right? Whereas a level 5 is going to say there's a difference between good debt and bad debt and investment versus spending. So there is like a whole level of thinking that involves risk-taking, like calculated risk-taking, and getting very uncomfortable to leap into value level 5, which is, again, the level of achievement. And that happens because the way of being in 4 feels restrictive and results in the desire for material things, the desire for wealth and success becomes so important. So somebody is going to transition into level 5. The people who really stand out in level 4 become 5s. This is also why we see it all the time where people hire the rock stars and then the rock stars are like, okay, but I want to have my own thing. I want to go do my own thing. So if you're running an organization, and like we want the rock stars too, right? We have a team full of rock stars, but you have to create the organization in a way where there's enough freedom and flexibility and autonomy so that you're like level 5 people and above in your organization still feel like they have the space to truly self-actualize in that space. So super, super important from that perspective as well. Okay. Level 5 is value, rationality, and science, individuality, and democracy. This is the level of capitalism. It's inherently materialistic, and it's the level of successful entrepreneurship. And I say successful because certainly a lot of people are out there at the networking meetings handing out their business cards for their business, but are not successful in terms of it being a sustainable business. This is also the level that will destroy the planet if there isn't that higher level 6 and above thinking attached to it as well. Okay, so there's lots of risk taking here. The 5 isn't afraid of that. They're actually excited by it. They have immense behavioral flexibility. 5s are very resourceful, right? They don't say, I don't have the time or I don't have the money. The 5 is like, how can I make the money? How can I find the money? How can I make the time? How can I find the time? Because they are committed to finding a way, because they're committed to whatever is going to better themselves. A 5 believes that resources can be manipulated and mastered. They don't like to be limited and they won't limit themselves. 5s don't look for permission. They will bend the rules. If they're like, nobody's getting hurt, I'm not concerned about it. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission is the value level 5 statement. Science and technology are important, and that's where it's in value level 5 that science and technology emerged. Again, science and technology are wonderful, but science and technology, especially like with the rise of AI, right? We look at it like it has amazing benefits, but there's also like a dark side to that too that has to be taken into consideration. And when it's only level 5 driving, it's not taken into consideration and we put people at risk. 5s love winning. 5s love competition. We do some like fun value level 5 competitions in our program every month to get people taking action. 5s are motivated to be the best they can possibly be. 5s love this kind of stuff and love learning this kind of stuff because it can help them be better, and 5s just want to be better. 5s love personality tests and assessments and quizzes. They see opportunities everywhere, and if it's not there, they're going to go find a way to create it. 5 is also where burnout can happen because the 5 is so driven to be successful, it can happen at the expense of other important things. So this is where the whole title of this presentation, when I sent out the emails, was, do you do the hard work or do you follow your bliss? Which is the right course of action? And it really depends on where you're at in your personal evolution and where your clients are at. Because if I have a value level 4 who wants to become a value level 5, I'm going to be like, you got to do the work. You have to find something worth modeling. But if you have a 5 bordering on burnout who's confused and foggy about what to do next, then you've got to be coaching that person. Find your joy. Let's infuse some fun back into your world. follow your bliss and to do what feels good. But what feels good to a 4 is never going to be the action taking required to become a 5. So you can't coach the same person from this, or you can't coach different people from the same lens all the time. It's just not effective. That's where you have to have that behavioral flexibility. Okay. Often 4 will keep themselves from advancing into 5 because they worried about being perceived as greedy or money hungry or all about the money. Again, a 6 and a 4 cup should be progressing into 5 because that person is going to do a hell of a lot more good with the money than the person who's just the 5 only thinker, right? 4s will also not understand 5 behavior because they're not going to perceive it. We talked about that. They'll perceive it as a 3, which it's really not. 4s have to hire 5s or 7s as business coaches to be able to move into that space. And I can tell you, as somebody who has been in this industry for a long time, there's a lot of offers out there by a lot of business coaches who have never had a successful business, and a lot of people who are really value level 4 in like a value level 6 dressing, trying to teach people ineffective ways of doing the work. So transitioning into 5s means being willing to be really uncomfortable, being able to take calculated risks, challenging what you know or believe, and challenging those family beliefs and family programming that was installed a long time ago. Understand that what you know to be true changes at every values level. And most importantly, needing to take massive action. So modeling success and adapting into successful systems is important here. The 4 in transition shouldn't be reinventing the wheel and trying to come up with a creative new way to have a business model. They'll do it wrong and wonder why it failed. So this is where fake it till you make it behavior, or I prefer saying model it till you become it, becomes really valuable. 5 needs to watch out for burnout and make space for fun and self-care and learn meditation and forms of connection. And they also have to have flexibility in how they lead, manage, and communicate. Otherwise, they will be perceived as a dictator. And then value level 6, right? It's a beautiful space. Value level 6 emerged about 150 years ago. That's not true. It emerged, I think, about 50 years ago. I have to fix my slide. I'm like, wait a minute. But what happens is the 5 wakes up one day and realizes the toll that being a 5 has taken. There's a sense of disconnection. There's a lack of meaning or purpose, and it's troubling for them. And then when a bunch of those people all experience the same thing, they gather in community, graduate to a 6, and start a sisterhood circle. And what's happened for a true 6, though, really, this is the true 6 who's been through their 5. They've met their goals. They've made their money. They have a broader perspective, and that broader perspective is ecological and based in contribution. We-centric thinking will reemerge here at a new level. Before it was at value level 4. We have the right answers. We self-sacrifice. Value level 6 says, no, but we do need to take into account the greater good. So impact is important to them. They want to make a difference. It's not about the money. They want to give back. It's very egalitarian, so everybody's voice matters. Equality, equity, and social justice and social responsibility all come from this level. And value level 6 believes that we are all one human race, spirit having a human experience. It's lovely. It's idealistic. We engage with energy, with consciousness, with transformation and transmutation. 6 cares about the environment and wants to save the planet. Interesting thing about 6 is they believe that they're non-judgmental, but they can actually be super judgmental. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. So in as much as the 6's ideals are wonderful, they cannot get much accomplished because they're too busy getting everybody else's perspective, and it's really not functional. We owe major advances in humanity to value level 6 thinking, like civil rights, women's rights. But the problem at this level is the amount of pressure and the susceptibility to groupthink. Okay, so this 6 can become dogmatic in their egalitarian ideals. They can become paradoxically hierarchical, looking down on others who don't completely see the world the same way that they do. Oh, you're not going to think a certain way? Well, then you're out. You're a bad person. The pendulum, when it swings too far, we're going to see widespread victim mentality, harmful cancel culture, and that's where it becomes the norm. And it, like the 6's in this space, really are contributing massively to the divisiveness in the world, right? While the intent is very good, it lacks an understanding of systems and of the world, and it lacks the ability to create real change because a 6 can't integrate lessons from previous levels without simultaneously judging them. So this is where to truly heal And to truly integrate and take all of the value from 6 and combine it with the power and the lessons from the other levels, we have to transition into level 7, which is that next tier of truly integrated thinking and consciousness. So this is what the 6 and the 4 cup dilemma looks like, right? Somebody is sitting in a 4 cup. They have high value level 6 thinking, and the environmental conditions are probably more reflective of the cup. Can I have a little bit of fun with you with the 6 and a 4 cup thing? I want permission, and I promise you everything I'm about to share, at least most of it, comes from experience personally, because I was certainly a 6 and a 4 cup when I started this, and I was pissed because I thought for sure I was like a real 5 or a real 6, right? Okay, the 6 and a 4 cup MO might look, sound, or feel like this. The business model is too rigid and too structured. They say it's because they want to have flexibility, spontaneity, and creativity, but they haven't tried the model yet and they don't have any money. Doesn't like goal setting or accountability. This person wants to just go with the flow. They can't have structure because they need to be in their feminine goddess energy. And I have lots of respect for feminine goddess energy. And I personally am not a super structured, systematic person. My team here can attest to that. I also have a deep respect for structures and systems and policy, because it is actually what allows us to thrive. They blame Mercury retrograde for everything. Okay? Can't work this week. It's Mercury retrograde. Actually, that's not true. Sometimes they're blaming their spirit guides. This 6 and a 4 cup uses their intuition from a value level 4 space. In the actual values level model, until you're a full value level 6, intuition isn't really like on point at that point. This person will say something doesn't feel right, or my intuition says to, or says it doesn't to, or says not to do something rather. The problem is that when you're a level 4 trying to build a level 5 business, it's never going to feel right. It's always going to feel foreign. It's always going to feel different. It's not going to feel great. And there's discomfort involved in taking that. So intuition can, I'm not saying is always or that it doesn't exist, but it can be misused from this space. The 6 and a 4 cup will spend 3 hours a day energetically preparing for one client who's not paying because it's an energy exchange. And they will have a lot of clients, but they're all barter clients for services that they don't really need. They will thank the business coach for amazing advice and then go and do it completely differently, or go and do it their way, and then come back to the business coach confused about why it's not working for them. They can be allergic to money and suck at receiving. We work with a lot of heart-centered, beautiful people who are so good at giving, but my God, do they suck at receiving? And so you have to learn how to receive, right? This person can also have a lot of judgment about people who talk about money or who they perceive to be showing off their money. They want to change the world as long as it doesn't cost them anything. Yes, I want to change the world. I want to contribute to the consciousness on the planet as long as I can do it for free and without having to be uncomfortable or without having to admit that there's something that I don't already know. Okay? They can have gorgeous social media feed and lovely client. They've already hired their VA. They've hired an online business manager, but they're not making any money. And they figure the answer must be another photo shoot, some more crystals, or another session with a psychic. They want to be a millionaire, but reject the systems and structure that millionaires created. They can adamantly reject that because it feels so restrictive. They will say their human design, or insert any other personality test, says that they actually can't take action and shouldn't take action. And we love human design and all the personality tests that are out there. A 5 will use a personality test to be better. 4 will use a personality test and turn it into an excuse for non-action. That was fun, right? Did we have a few laughs? I see a bit of nodding. Good. Please don't hate me. Like I said, been there, done that with pretty much most of the list. But you have to remember, if you're a 4 trying to grow a business, the more uncomfortable you're willing to be and the more action you can take, the faster you'll get the level 5 results and paycheck. And you deserve that, and you will do good with that. We believe that. You have to do your inner work. You can accelerate your results. You just need to reprogram yourself to match what it is that you want to create. It's essential to integrate the systems and processes from level 4. So in our training, we have actually integrated systems and processes. That there's the ones that we developed, and then Kelly came on board and looked at everything we were doing. She was like, you guys, there's so much better stuff to do. So Kelly basically recreated a lot of systems and processes. There's something from everything from the initial coaching agreement and coaching contract to, because we do transformational coaching and because we're working with the unconscious mind at Avalon, like Avalon coaches work so much with the unconscious mind, we will hit people's old traumas. We will hit into some of those things right away. And we don't believe that the answer is always to refer out. We have a lot of people like Kelly who have backgrounds in mental health work actually come into coaching because the coaching tools are so effective. But we have a form and a process for when you need to go to a licensed professional for a letter to say, yes, I'm aware that my patient is working with you as a coach and I support that process. There's ways to work collaboratively and there's processes that go along with that. And we offer supervision, which is also a process. So having those level 4 pieces integrated into everything you do is really important because a solid 5 will thrive in process and protocol. You got to find somebody worth modeling and model them, or get a coach or take an amazing training, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that's based in this stuff and will accelerate the heck out of you getting results. That is my shameless plug for the training, which comes from my value level 5 neurology. Ask yourself, what would a 5 do, and surround yourself with 5+ people. And of course, consider all of your level 6 ideals, spend time in your level 6 work and thinking ahead to tier 2 consciousness, level 7, level 8. Conscious capitalism is possible and we can be the change. So we certainly encourage all of that thinking to continue and exploration and personal growth. And most important, be good to yourself, because most people will never put in the effort or take the action that is necessary to break into level 5 and higher levels. So even taking the time to know this stuff is a step in the right direction. Okay, so now tier 2 consciousness, and this is what I believe we are all here for, whether we can identify that or not. So the future is here. Are you here for it? Right? The path to tier 2. Tier 2 is beingness, right? The first tier, levels 1 through 6, were part of tier 1, and that was the subsistence level. And that's what humanity is really known until recently. All of the previous stages project their beliefs upon the other stages. And if you look at the media and, like I said, like the divisiveness in the world, we can see evidence of that in our social media feeds every single day, right? So each level has fundamental beliefs that they believe are right and that have the answers. The 3s think the 4s are losers. 4s think 3s are barbarians and that 5s are greedy rule breakers. 5s are convinced that 6 are a bunch of useless woke hippies and that 4 are the sheeples. 6 thinks that 3, 4, and 5 are all asleep and they believe they're the awakened ones and they're all about love and peace. Unless you don't subscribe to their belief system, then they'll cancel you and shame you while destroying your reputation. But they're not the bad guys. They see themselves as morally correct and see 5, but 5 and 3 sees them as communists. 4 thinks that they're all a bunch of woo heathens and doesn't appreciate their spiritual but not religious worldview at all. And 4 thinks 5 and 6 are corrupting everybody. Meanwhile, 3 is fighting for freedom with an emphasis on fight, which isn't going to get very far. And there's a lot of 4s and 5s regressing into 3 to do the same because the old ways of being are not working. And now we know why the world is so messed up. We have got to evolve. And this is what personally gets me out of bed every day to do this work, because I believe in it. And I believe that tools to work with our subconscious beliefs, the programming that was picked up, that was inherited, whether it's through family or through history or through, for many people, histories of oppression. We have the opportunity to change these things. And the more that we can do this change in ourselves, the more that we're contributing, not just to our own evolution of consciousness, but to humanity, making this, albeit rocky, transition into tier 2 of integrated beingness. So level 7 comes online. It's emerging now. And this is a graduated level of systemic thinking, where the world is an interlocking series of systems. Some are hierarchical, some are not. It is egocentric again, but encompasses all of humanity in a functional and flexible way. We have extreme behavioral flexibility here. Level 7 can and will communicate on all of the different levels depending on what's needed at that time. There's no judgment about level 3. They can use their level 3 neurology if they need to, right? They're comfortable in chaos because they can easily see through it. They can see through all of that noise, right? They hold paradox naturally, and they actually thrive in situations of paradox. The hallmark thinking here is really both and versus either or thinking. They've integrated all of the unresolved material from previous levels. It will take a ton of deep work and real commitment to change to get here, but this is the direction that humanity is headed, and we get to have a choice to move here with free will, conscious choice, and volition, or to do it the messy way, which is how a lot of people are unconsciously choosing to do it. Then value level 8 emerges, which is holistic and global. This is where everything is in its place. Systems are woven together, making a beautiful whole. There's really no boundaries and borders here. The world is alive and evolving. Everything is energy. The transpersonal self is expressed. There's a focus on true being and becoming. Life is good. Life is evolving. There's universal awareness of existence. It's contemplative, and the experience of inner peace is there, and it's completely surrendered to outcomes, to drama, to anything else going on. A level 8 is really just in a place of divine surrender all the time. This is where intuition meets cognition and instincts, and those things are integrated. There is unity consciousness. They're working unconsciously in other worlds, and there is oneness with all life and with the planet. I think sounds pretty awesome, and would love to see the world get there. Okay, so the change state indicator is by Professor Claire Graves, and he said that change means moving through chaos and stability, and that we're going to do this in cycles. The cycles happen throughout a lifetime, and these periods assist us in our growth and development if they're challenging, and the stability periods will assist us in consolidation and grounding. This is how we do change, and this is how our clients do change. We start out in position A. A is stability. Life is fine. Life is normal. But then we get along to position B, where it's like, things are starting to feel off. There's change on the horizon. Maybe there's a sense of some kind of like pending challenges or problems. And what often happens to people is they find themselves dropping into C, right? And C is where things are not good. There are problems in C. However the problems show up, they show up. But C is a painful place to be. What they want is to be up in D, right? This is literally like when we talk about up leveling a lot in this business, this is a diagram of an up level. This is what it looks like to up level, because this is where we want to be. We don't want to be back in B. A is no longer really enticing. We want to be in D, right? Until then we move along in D for long enough and you wind up in, say, A1. What's interesting is that people do not go from A to B to C to D. Most people will bounce between C and B like a ping pong ball. Because when you're in that pain of C, all of a sudden B doesn't look that bad. That relationship that you know wasn't working, well, maybe it wasn't so bad. They were this or they were that, or entrepreneurship is hard and maybe I should go back and just go back and find a job or go back and get at my old job. Wasn't that bad. At least it paid the bills. But we're meant to grow. You're not meant to go back to B and stay in B. We're meant to go to D every single time. So the more somebody does that, the more they can bounce back and forth between B and C. And sometimes clients will show up to your coaching and this is, they can't articulate it, but this is what they're doing and they need help getting to D, which is what a coach does, right? Coach helps build somebody up and task and move them from C to D. But what's important here to recognize is that the only way to get to D is not having to go into C every single time. We can build a bridge. And I believe that community is essential in building a bridge. Coaching is essential in building a bridge. Sometimes a client will come to coaching in B and they're like, I don't want to do C, so help me out. And that's a really proactive person who's helped me build the bridge over to D because I don't want to do it the hard way. And so this is a diagram for change. This is a diagram for how we change as individuals. It's also the diagram for how the world will evolve into higher levels of consciousness too. So the world, we've been sitting in a little bit of C and maybe bouncing a bit between C and B for a little while. But I think the more people who are aware of this and invested in helping people do this type of change work, the more we can contribute to getting us all over to level D in that next tier of thinking sooner. It is important when we're looking at, I'm going to just pop back a little bit. These two places, level 7 and 8 can feel very isolating. This can feel very isolating. We had a conversation we do a monthly call for torchbearer graduates, we call it a Blaze Day. And there was a whole conversation at our last one about the idea of belonging. Somebody came on and said, I don't feel like I belong. And where we netted out was like, of course, we all belong, but it's hard to belong when you're here to create the new. And that was where the conversation went, was like, we're here to create something brand new and we're taking part in that. You will be one of a few when you are in this space, and it can feel alienating. There's a teacher that I listen to, and he describes the transition into second tier as the darkest night of the soul that a person will experience, because you have got to let go of all of the old ways of thinking and doing things, like all of them. We're not just shedding some of it. It's a huge leap and it's wonderful. And certainly I know the moment that I learned this stuff, I was like, ooh, 7. Like, I want to have a value level 7 business. I want to build systems that are in alignment with this, knowing that we would have to grow into it. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do. And it's certainly not easy to do on your own. So I just want to acknowledge that. There. Okay. So the big question is always how, right? How do you make these changes? How do you do this work? It's great in theory, but what does it look like? And it looks like building the neurology for success, recognizing that the operating systems that people have are the ones that were handed to us or that were programmed in early childhood, and that we have got to create space to do change work at a cellular level, not just with mindset work. That means excavating that old programming and subconscious limiting beliefs instead of blaming whatever there is to blame, and surrounding yourself with a community of people who are also doing the same thing. The community of people to be supported at a high level. And for us, supervision and coaching is a huge part of that too. And being able to get the advice of somebody who's been there and can help, as well as honoring the importance of trauma awareness and ethical influence, because we work with so many tools that do work at a subconscious level, including neurolinguistic programming, or our brand of it, evolved neurolinguistic programming. That is super important to us, and recognizing that you are holding your client's psyche in your hands when you're doing the work with them. So there is a way to do that as a coach that honors trauma awareness, and that's really what we are here to create. We believe that it's time to create a new way of working, especially as coaches, and these systems, breaking them down to make room for client-centric coaching model that is going to build bridges and get people results. About half of the coaches who come and work with us are existing coaches already. They've taken some other certification or they've been working as a coach. The other half are people who are brand new to coaching. And at least a third of our applicants and a high number of our graduates also are like Kelly, have a background in mental health or therapy. And there's a lot of red tape there too, right? Because that is very much a value level 4 system that governs the regulation piece, where coaching is unregulated, which is not necessarily a great thing, but it's why we believe in building a new paradigm for doing the work, where we can honor all of it and pull it together in a really integral way and in a new way that hasn't been done before. The industry is changing, and that's a good thing. Integrity is rising. We're proud to be creating a new collaborative paradigm for such important and powerful work. So with that said, this is the point where I want to invite you. If you want to change the world with us, certainly we're in this work because we feel called to be in this work and we feel called to do what we do. I find that we're the type of people where people either love what we're doing and want to be a part of it, or no, this is totally not for me. And if you don't think it's for you, then that is fantastic. You're probably right. However, if you do feel like this is the type of work that you want to be doing, we are looking for people who have been called to step up and lead humanity out of these times and into this new way of being and into this new space. This is absolutely about business, but it's also about satisfying the call of your spirit. Our coach certification is a trauma-aware triple certification for coaches. The certifications, I did a call, the call last week was all about certification. And a lot of people come and they're like, I don't really need another certification, but they do need values level thinking. They do want to work with those assessments and work with clients at that level. They do need space to release their old traumas and release their old thinking and stuff and program the success programs that they want, and are looking for community and tools to serve and show up at the highest level. And that's what these certifications really represent, is having those tools and the space to do it. So it's our transformational coach certification, which involves our Avalon breakthrough model, our evolved neurolinguistic programming coach practitioner certification, and our quantum time release certification for QCP or QTR practitioner rather. And should you wish to check those out, the application process is pretty simple. You just need to jump on at avalon-empowerment.com/apply and fill out the application there. There's a few questions. You don't need to take a lot of time, but Stacy will take her time to review them all and get to know you before you even jump on a call with her. And what happens is at the end of that application, you'll be prompted to book a 15-minute call where Stacy will jump on a phone call, just do a quick get to know you, see if the program feels like a good fit for your goals and where you're headed. If you feel like a good fit for our community, we keep our class sizes very small. We do that on purpose because while the tools are applicable to any niche, we want to have the time to personally get to know everybody and see how is it going to apply to a health coach's business? How is it going to apply to a fertility coach or a money coach or a business coach or any number of different expressions of your purpose. So Stacy will help identify if this is if this feels like the right thing, if this feels like the right time. If it does, then what she will do is give you a 1 hour, it's approximately an hour long video that goes through literally like every sort of piece of the program, like how we train it, the time that's required, how it's set up. It's a very comprehensive program and it's set up based on values levels to help people be successful, which is why we have a 99% completion rate of the program, which is unheard of in the coaching space and an online training space. So we have very high completion because of the way it's set up, but it takes time to explain. So the video will do that. It will also explain tuition and pretty much all the kind of like detailed questions that people have. And after that, then there's another call with Stacy on Zoom to get to know each other, ask any other questions you have, see how it's going to work in your business. Stacy has been a coach herself for as long as we have and has great ideas about what can happen there. And that's what she will do. I will say that we include in this our breakthrough model. Some of you are familiar with that. Others may not be, but our breakthrough model is step-by-step how to take somebody through a 6-week program or 6-session program. It can take longer than 6 weeks, depending on how you space out the sessions. And it will give your clients extraordinary results in a very short period of time. Our coaches typically start charging $3,500 for that, up to $10,000 for that 6-session transformational breakthrough. It will change your clients' lives and your life too. If you come through the program, you'll likely do a breakthrough with a partner inside of the program. We also are offering lifetime licensing to our Awaken Your True Self, which was initially run as a weekend program, though we have a lot of coaches right now running it in 6 to 8 weeks, broken up a couple of hours at a time online. So the licensing for that includes everything from the marketing to a workbook for your clients to use, slides, a full SOP with like start to finish every word that you need to say to train the program, and can be customized to your niche. So this is not one of these things where we're sending graduates out to promote themselves using our stuff. We actually give you the Canva files so that you can add your own branding and do your value level 5 thing with it and your value level 6 thing with it and take it out and use it. But it's a really great business builder, which is how most of our grads are using it. They're running the weekend program. And then from there, people get a chance to get to know them, get to know their work, get some great results in a 2-day workshop. And then people will opt into more premium services, more premium coaching services with you. It's how Kelly and I built our coaching businesses, and we've refined it and are now licensing it to all of our grads. So that's included too. Stacy can go over all of that with you. The bottom line is, if you feel called to this for any reason, then we really do encourage you to hop on a call, because Stacy's an amazing person too and can help you sort out if this really truly is a good fit and the right time. The window for we're currently enrolling for a group that's going to graduate in October. That window is open, I think, for maybe just another week or so, with a few spots available in it. Not fake scarcity. We really do. We really do keep our class sizes small. So if you would like one of those, then yeah, please reach out.